Ella always believed that a name held power, a secret whisper of one's destiny. Her own, Ella, felt like a gentle brook, meandering through a peaceful meadow. Kalin, her steadfast friend since childhood, often teased her about her fascination with etymology, yet he secretly admired her depth of thought. He, with a name meaning resolute protector, embodied his name perfectly, always there to lend a hand or a listening ear. Then there was Lyra, a whirlwind of vibrant energy, whose name, meaning wisdom, seemed to contradict her impetuous nature, yet in quiet moments, a profound understanding shone in her eyes. The three of them, bound by shared dreams and countless adventures, navigated the complexities of life, each a unique note in the symphony of their friendship. Ella and I had been married for 50 years on the day she passed away. A smile still lingered on her lips, but I silently stood up and gazed out the window. I thought, if there's an afterlife, I will never marry Ella again. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a row of tall, lush white poplar trees planted on the campus. In a daze, a chalk-covered ruler tapped my shoulder. "Darian, repeat the force analysis I just mentioned," said the university physics teacher, standing at the podium, frowning and glaring at me. I stood up and saw the teacher glaring at me. A voice from the back row immediately shouted teasingly, "Teacher, he's not in our class. He's just here to accompany his girlfriend." The teacher's face darkened, and he turned back to write on the board. At this moment, Ella beside me suddenly spoke up. "I don't know him." The classroom fell silent. My heart raced. Ella at this moment was youthful, but already carried an air of aloofness that made people hesitate to approach her. She was always cool and proud, a high flower whose beauty left me captivated. At this moment, she was even colder than ever, showing no mercy at all. It felt like she was deliberately trying to embarrass someone. I gave a wry smile. She was just like she was in my past life. I said, "Yes, teacher, I'm not in this class, and I'm not familiar with her. Sorry for disturbing your class. I'll leave now." Ella's hand stopped flipping through her book for a moment, but she remained seated by the aisle, blocking my way. After class, the teacher called me to his office. Before he said anything, he knocked my head irritably. "Silly boy, it's obvious she's not interested in you. Can't you see that?" I nodded. "I can tell, uncle. I won't come to your class anymore." My uncle looked at me suspiciously for a while, then waved his hand and went back to his desk. As soon as I left the office, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Someone clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Darian, the cafeteria's got a new soda, orange flavor. Want me to buy you one?" When I shook my head, Kalin quickly added, "Then let's go to my dorm and listen to the radio. I just bought a Shanghai Red Lantern model. The sound quality is amazing. I'll play Teresa Tang songs for you." He started humming. "Let life float with the wind. Let ideals forever shine." I straightened out the wrinkles on my clothes. "I have to prepare for an internship at the Northern Research Institute. Got a lot of things to do, so I won't be hanging out with you." Kalin grabbed my arm. "Ah, so sudden. Who am I supposed to hang out with? You and Ella can hang out together. You don't need me to be a third wheel." "It's fine." Kalin slowly let go of my arm, and the smile on his face faded away. I turned around just in time to see Ella leaning against the wall, her head lowered as she fiddled with her notebook. She suddenly looked up at me. "Don't worry about him. Let him go wherever he wants." After saying that, she quickly walked over and grabbed Kalin's hand. So many things to deal with. Although she didn't look at me, every word felt like a knife stabbing into my heart. 50 years had passed, and this scene felt like it belonged to another world. But when I heard it, my heart still clenched with discomfort. Back then, I would do whatever I could to make myself adapt to this pain until it became a part of my life. I asked, "Don't you want to know when I'll leave?" Ella snorted coldly, and Kalin hurriedly interrupted her. "Darian, when exactly are you leaving? Why so sudden?" I pushed up my glasses and looked at the row of white poplar trees in front of the experimental building. "When all these leaves turn yellow, it won't be long." Since that day, I stopped attending classes. The decision to go to the Research Institute was sudden, but preparing the materials took a lot of effort. I was flipping through a stack of brochures about the institute when my uncle suddenly knocked on my bedroom door. "My students are here," she said. "She wanted to ask me some questions. After dropping off her things, she won't leave. Maybe you should come and have a look." I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Just leave the door open, Uncle. You go ahead and prepare your lessons. The northern autumn came early, with a hint of chill in the air. I still hadn't heard the sound of leather shoes tapping on the concrete floor by the time I lifted my head from the mountain of paperwork. The sky outside had already darkened. I walked into the living room. Ella was as if she had never been here. Fading sunlight streamed through the old windows, casting long shadows on the floor. This silence suddenly made everything feel surreal. For the next few days, I focused on researching the institute. I grew up with my uncle, and after my parents left me some money, they each went their separate ways with their lives. In my past life, I never saw them again before my life came to an end. But this mutual indifference between us had allowed me to live freely. I told my uncle about the research institute I had chosen. He said, "That institute is quite good. It's top-notch in the domestic navigation system field. By the way, Ayala has been asking about where you're going. It's rare for that girl to show interest in someone. Why don't you talk to her yourself?" I sneered. "Uncle, aren't you the one who can't stand me being clueless and always getting in the middle between Ayala and Kalin? You're even embarrassed to admit you have me as your nephew in the department." Uncle sighed heavily. "I'm just worried you might be impulsive when it comes to emotions. Think carefully before you regret it." I nodded. "Don't worry, Uncle." The next day, I went back to the department. I didn't expect that the news about my internship had already spread throughout the entire year. My roommate, seeing me sorting through my materials, couldn't help but mock me. "Hey Darian, aren't you an orphan? How come you can afford to go to a research institute?" My dad said anyone who can get into those top units isn't an ordinary person. How could you possibly get in? I casually picked up a mechanic's notebook and flipped through it. Then I threw it straight into the trash can. The guy reached out to grab it, but froze halfway. I said coldly, "Didn't Kalin tell you I'm not leaving these materials for you? After all, he promised you benefits, right?" The guy hurriedly explained, "No, it's not about Kalin." He didn't say anything. I paused for a moment as I packed my bag. "Really? Then you're just looking for trouble, aren't you?" I grabbed my canvas bag and turned to leave. The guy wanted to follow, but I stopped at the door and pointed at him from a distance. I've always suspected there was a thief in the dorm. Things keep mysteriously disappearing. I wonder which thief will take my notebook this time. His face turned pale instantly. He turned and rushed back into the dorm, angrily pounding his fist on the wall. I walked out of the dorm in big strides, looking up at the sky. It was a rare good day. The intensity of the autumn heat was already weakening, but faster than the autumn chill was the arrival of an unexpected person. Just as I reached the school gate, someone suddenly snatched my canvas bag from my hand. "Are you going to the Beijing Research Institute? Aren't you majoring in navigation technology? Don't you plan to do the same job as your parents anymore?" I was taken aback. Ayala had somehow found out all these things I hadn't even had the chance to tell her yet. I said calmly, "I think my parents are too far away. Maybe I'll meet them even if I'm not working in the same field. Who knows, one day the navigation system they use for their missions might be something I helped develop. Isn't that another kind of reunion?" Ayala let go of the bag. It dropped to the ground, and its contents scattered everywhere. This kind of bag was indeed inconvenient. I crouched down to start picking things up. Ayala irritably kicked aside a notebook that had fallen by her feet. "Is this junk really worth you coming all the way back for? Not even worth saying goodbye to me?" I looked directly into her eyes and asked, "With what identity should I say goodbye to you, Ayala?" Ayala looked confused. "In my past life, we only got together 5 years later. By then, we had already started working. Kalin went south, got involved with the daughter of a military industry CEO, and quickly got married. A month later, Ayala came to find me and asked if I wanted to get married, even though we hadn't seen each other in 3 years by then. Without hesitation, I agreed. When we were young, we always thought time could heal everything. As long as I could be with Ayala, everything else could come later, including making her truly love me. But 50 years had passed, and I still hadn't achieved that. Ironically, just a few days after my rebirth, I became indifferent to Ayala, and in return, I saw the care I had longed for in my past life. But I saw through it. Ayala didn't have me in her heart, at least not now. She was just not used to it. I didn't wait for Ayala to speak. "Ayala, besides you, who knows that my parents are researchers, right?" Everyone thought I was an orphan like Kalin, who was walking toward us. Ayala frowned. "I never told anyone about it. You never liked talking about your family." "That's true. Among the 3 of us, Only Kalin thought I was an orphan. Ayala bit her lower lip. What exactly are you trying to say? Kalin hasn't said anything about you. You should trust him. To outsiders, Kalin and I were the closest. Logically speaking, he should be the one to keep my secrets. I didn't answer but watched as Kalin, dressed in dark blue work pants, pushed his bicycle toward us. I stepped back, bent down to put the scattered materials back into the canvas bag, and casually tossed it by the stairs. Then I turned and walked out of the campus. The news of my internship spread quickly. Some were envious, some made sarcastic remarks, and some said, "Even if you make it big, don't forget your old classmates." Some even wanted to throw me a farewell party in the old-fashioned auditorium. Ayala sat alone on a bench in the corner, as silent as ever. The ceiling fan whirred, and when my classmates saw me push the door open, they cheered. Welcome the first student from our department to enter a top research institute. Darian, come up on stage and perform for us. I heard that institute has very high standards. How about giving a professional presentation? Looking around, I saw all familiar faces. Mostly it was a group of girls Kalin usually hung out with, along with their roommates. I walked up to the stage, grabbed the microphone. Then I'll sing Carefree walked. Before anyone could say anything, I started the accompaniment. When I sang, maybe you've never wanted to tell me, and I don't want to ask you why, Alice shifted in her seat. Her long hair hung in front of her face, hiding her expression. The line before that was, "So I will forget your memories." She remained motionless. This entanglement between the three of us should finally end. When the song finished, a few scattered claps came from the audience. I walked to the desk, grabbed a bottle of soda, and took a big gulp. The auditorium became lively again. Classmates rushed to the stage. Various off-key singing filled the air, making everyone laugh. Ayala suddenly spoke. "Darian, you said that for love, one should be brave, right?" I looked straight at her. Yes, both love and indifference. Her gaze fell on Kalin, who was now laughing with a group of girls. So it's fine for him to have so many girlfriends, right? He just changes girlfriends more often, but he hasn't done anything wrong. I've always thought he's just an outgoing person. Ayala turned her head to look at me. So I don't believe he leaked your secret. Even for this gathering today, even if it's related to him, I don't think he did it on purpose. Darian, I never thought you'd be so paranoid. You've really disappointed me. I shook the half bottle of soda in my hand. So what? What, Ayala? You've always known I like you, haven't you? She quickly turned her face away, avoiding my gaze. I continued. To you, the one who makes the first move is the humble one. The outgoing person is just being themselves, while the one who isn't likable is blamed for everything. I've never thought that way. Ayala reached for the soda on the table, but the pack of cigarettes beside it fell to the ground. She subconsciously looked at Kalin, who was talking and laughing with the girls. Then she awkwardly picked it up. I laughed. Ayala, you're actually quite hypocritical. Your feelings are like the sludge in a stinky drain, unable to see the light, and yet they're notorious, and everyone holds their nose in disgust. Ayala's face turned pale. She grabbed a cigarette, clumsily lit it, and took a deep puff. It seemed like she was doing it out of spite. Such a loss of composure was rare for her, but I found it disgusting. I stood up. Love can stay in your heart, but you shouldn't sacrifice others to fulfill yourself. Ayala, I won't give you the chance to use me anymore. From now on, it's better if we remain strangers. Ayala always believed that Kalin wouldn't spread those rumors about me behind my back. She was also convinced that this farewell party, which reeked of his involvement, wasn't some carefully planned scheme. In her eyes, it was all me making a fuss over nothing, deliberately targeting him. It didn't matter anymore. I came today just to say to my past, it wasn't worth it. After the party ended, I locked myself in the lab and focused on studying the principles of the navigation system. As finals approached, Kalin came looking for me, which I had anticipated. He was as carefree as usual, casually slinging his arm over my shoulder. He pulled a stack of yellowing technical documents from his bag and pushed them in front of me. Here, this is good stuff. I had someone get me some internal materials, all the latest. I flipped through the documents and seriously read a few pages. He saw this and slowly stopped smiling. I thought you were mad at me. Seems like I was overthinking. I closed the file. What are you talking about? Kalin paused for a second. It's nothing. As long as you're not mad, let's just forget about the past. By the way, Darian, Why the sudden decision to go to Beijing? I didn't want to bring up your family, worried it might upset you, but turns out I misunderstood. Turns out your family is doing so well, and your parents are fine too. You managed to hide it so well. You call yourself a brother? I thought we were close friends. Close friends? He said Ella and I had known each other since childhood, and her parents were both teachers, just like my uncle. My uncle wasn't only her teacher, but also an elder in her life, so Ella and I naturally became close. But her temperament was always cold. After more than 10 years of knowing her, I was still closer to Kalin, who had known her for only a year. I said, because I focused on my studies, and with you around, always shaping the image of a poor student, people actually thought you weren't that kind of spoiled rich kid. Kalin, I admit, I often hung out with you for my own reasons. I knew Ella liked you, but she couldn't bring herself to admit it. With me around, she wouldn't have to bear all those rumors. Ella wasn't willing to admit that she had fallen for someone with a bad reputation. When the three of us appeared together, he could pretend that I was her target, not Kalin. We each had thoughts we couldn't voice. None of us ever broke the silence. Now it was better that it all ended here. Darian, are you fucking crazy? Kalin clearly didn't think so. You're saying Ella can't admit she likes me, huh? You really think too highly of yourself. You're just a bookworm who only knows how to bury yourself in research. You've been hanging around with us? No wonder everyone calls you a useless guy. You think following me around will make you look normal? Let me tell you, if I weren't covering for you, people would already be calling you a freak. I'm doing you a favor by hanging out with you. You think you mean something? He snatched the stack of documents I had brought from me. Someone like you, all poor and shabby, wants to go to a top research institute? You're a joke. An orphan. Who knows what backdoor deal you used there? There are rumors now saying you're playing sugar baby to some female leaders. You know it yourself. Only then did I realize Ella hadn't told him about my family. This was her usual style. She had her flaws as a person, but she always stuck to her principles. And with that cold, beautiful face, she was bound to be the object of a lost boy's dreams during their youth. I laughed bitterly. Let the grudges and misunderstandings end here. Now that we've said everything, let's go our separate ways. Kalin, I advise you, take care of yourself. Don't do anything stupid. I know all about your dirty little secrets. Kalin clearly didn't take my words to heart. The day the institute's assignment came through, I went to the department office to collect the materials but was held back. They insisted I call my parents. The school could easily pull up my records. It would show that both my parents were alive and well and were key researchers. The department head, peering over his thick glasses, stared at me. Darian, you've always been a diligent and good student, never causing trouble for the department. But recently, all these rumors have been circulating, and yet you've said nothing. This makes it hard for the department. Going to such a prestigious research institute, understanding your family background is crucial, but with your current situation, it's going to be difficult to write a strong recommendation. It was also ridiculous, but since things had escalated to this point, I had no choice but to find a way to resolve it. The rumors on campus had grown more outrageous. They said I couldn't possibly get into any research institute and was trying to use connections and backdoor channels. It claimed I was just a poor student who couldn't handle the tough life and was looking for shortcuts, selling my body for favors. Strangely, this explanation seemed quite convincing. Walking around campus, I could hear whispers everywhere. They said people like me, if not severely punished, would set a bad example and lead others astray, encouraging them to be lazy and irresponsible. It was hard to believe that in this day and age, when announcements were still being made through loudspeakers, Kalin had somehow spread the rumors so quickly and widely. They even dug up the notebook I had given my roommate, which was obviously quite expensive. Some people even claimed those items were Kalin's kind-hearted gifts to me. They said I took them and then claimed them as my own. They had falsely accused me of being greedy and shameless. But these rumors were easy to clear up. I pulled out my bank account statement, which showed I had $1 million in savings since birth. With that kind of proof, even in the 80s, it would command respect. Once the bank statement was presented, those rumors were instantly shut down. I didn't bother clarifying anything else. After all, this was a prestigious polytechnic university, not a place where rumors could easily gain traction. I successfully got all the materials needed for the research institute. Once the official assignment came through, I would be able to report to the institute. The time had come for early autumn, and the department was about to start its break. I thought everyone had forgotten about the whole matter, but unexpectedly, Kalin, with his swollen eyes, threw a punch at me as soon as I opened the door. I looked at the person standing beside him. "This is my uncle's house. You're bringing people here to cause trouble." Ella frowned. "I didn't know he would get physical. Can you stop always thinking so badly of me, Darian? You've changed. Ever since that class, you're always suspicious of others. Is it because you were too silent back then and we didn't notice this side of you? Or did I misjudge you all along? What a scoundrel." I was about to call the police, but then I thought there weren't even any cameras around and no one would vouch for me. So I raised my hand and slapped her. It was Ella. I hit Ella. "Not only are you deaf, you're blind too. Why are you acting crazy for no reason? I don't welcome you here. Out." Ella, stunned, covered her face. "You hit me. What's wrong with you? Is it because I didn't publicly acknowledge you as my boyfriend that you've been holding a grudge all this time? But we weren't even in that kind of relationship. What's wrong with me denying it?" We were caught in the middle of this argument, forgetting that Kalin was still there. He suddenly pushed his way between us, shouting. He said, "Ella, have you forgotten why we're here today?" Ella's expression hardened. "Darian, apologize. Apologize to Kalin." I sneered. "Apologize? What a joke." Kalin accused. "Darian, I've always considered you my best brother. Why would you insinuate in front of Ella that I spread those rumors about you? I thought your parents had passed away, but I'm not the only one who thought that. What gives you the right to say I was scheming behind your back?" I looked at Ella. "Did you ask him?" "Yes, what's the problem?" "I just wanted to know the truth," she said coldly. "Indeed, there was no problem." I spoke slowly. "Actually, you're the only one. If anyone else thought so, it must have come from you. Remember the time you said you never heard me mention anything about my family? You thought it was too hard to bring up." I smiled and didn't respond. "And you took that as me agreeing." The next day, the dorm mates were going through my drawers, looking for pictures of my parents. What does that prove? Maybe others thought the same way. Kalin was still arguing. That time, I lent a Casio calculator to a classmate. He later told me that you said in the cafeteria you were worried about my family situation, afraid I might have psychological issues. That night, the research team even held a meeting to pressure me about my family background. Kalin, do you remember how little time had passed since the freshmen had just enrolled? Darian. Ella suddenly slammed her fist on the table, her voice filled with anger. "So you knew what Kalin was doing behind my back all this time, and you still acted like nothing was wrong and stayed friends with him for a whole year? Hey, seems it was all fake. You never considered him a friend, and you didn't care about me after all these years. I thought you felt something for me. Was it all an act?" I leaned against the door, coldly watching her. "How did I treat you, Ella? Don't you know that for all these years, I've liked you, yet you've shamelessly used my feelings to get close to Kalin? What right do you have to accuse me?" Ella suddenly fell silent, turning her head away, her long hair covering her pale face. "Then don't go to the research institute." "As long as you don't go to the research institute, I can't." I interrupted her. "What are you? Who are you to control my decisions?" "Ella, you like me?" Kalin's voice suddenly drowned mine out. At that moment, he seemed to have lost his usual confidence. He wasn't lacking anything, but he still wanted all the girls to love him. I slammed the door shut. I didn't want to see the hesitation in Ella's eyes. The assignment hadn't come yet, but I was already on the train to Beijing. Little did I know that our next meeting wouldn't be until the 1990 National Science and Technology Exhibition. While I was adjusting equipment at the main booth, I saw Ella. She was walking with Kalin. That wouldn't have been noteworthy, but what made me look twice was the slight bulge in Ella's abdomen. Ella met my gaze, her expression calm, and she showed no intention of explaining. The hall was crowded, and I had no time to think further. After setting up the booth, I was suddenly pulled into the equipment room. In the darkness, I quietly listened to the sound of someone's breathing. Someone rested their head on my shoulder. "Darian." The voice trembled. Ella was suppressing her emotions, not wanting anyone to notice she had been crying, but she didn't know her tears had already soaked my lab coat. I pushed her away. "I have work to do." She grabbed my sleeve, unwilling to let go. "Why did you lie to me?" "What? The 762 Institute doesn't even have you." I understood. I applied to 3 institutes. The conditions there were too poor, so I went elsewhere. "Then why didn't you tell me? Or why haven't you called me even once these years? Darian, is your heart made of stone?" I shook off her hand. Didn't we make ourselves clear? Don't make me feel disgusted. She froze in place. You never gave me a chance to explain. I wanted to say, if you stay, I can admit in front of everyone that you're my boyfriend. I won't be with Kalin, but you can always be by my side. You'll forever have the title of my boyfriend. So that's it. In the past life, those 50 years were nothing but her charity, letting me hang on to her husband's title, not so I could be mocked by others. No wonder she always treated me with such indifference. I said, let me be clear, Ayala. I don't love you anymore. I used to see only you, but now I realize a world without you is so much bigger. Compared to all this, you're really insignificant. Sorry, I have to work. Ayala wanted to say something, but I cut her off. Why don't you ask me what my relationship with Kalin is? Why don't you ask whose child this is? Why don't you ask how I found out where you were? Darian, I came to Beijing for you. I walked out the door without looking back, and at the corner, I handed in my work pass and put all of it behind me. Soon, I learned the answers to all these questions from Kalin. Kalin came uninvited. He said that the day I locked him and Ayala outside the door, he asked Ayala, did Darian say you didn't dare to admit you liked me? Is it true? If you dare, I'll break up with my current girlfriend immediately, and we'll be together. I'll only have you from now on. That day, Ayala kissed him first. They became very public about their relationship. They even planned to throw a party and announce it to the whole department. But no one could find me by then. I was already on a train to Beijing. Darian, you're the best at pretending. You hide it really well. You left without saying a word, without a single goodbye. All these years, you've watched me put on a show in front of you, flaunting my half-baked skills. And I bet you've been laughing at me all along, haven't you? Kalin held the teacup, sipping it every now and then. Seeing him enjoying his tea, I still reminded him, you're drinking too much hot tea. It's not good for your stomach. Suddenly, his emotions flared, and he slammed the cup on the table. Stop pretending to be the good guy, Darian. Don't act like you're above it all. If I were like you, born into a family of scientists, surrounded by cutting-edge technology from a young age, never worrying about food or drink, I'd be in your position by now. But everything I flaunted in front of you, do you know how hard I fought for it? People like you from wealthy families look down on people like us. If you started from the bottom, you wouldn't be any better than I am. I set my tea down and looked at him. Are you done? I wasn't here to listen to him vent his emotions. Kalin froze for a moment. You used to love listening to me talk like this. Well, that's because back then you were so pathetic, so eager to win Ayala over. For her, you'd do anything, even suffer alongside me. Seeing my impatience, he suddenly gave me a smug smile. Do you want to know whose child is in her belly? It's mine. The night I left for Beijing, I wasn't in the auditorium, and Kalin watched as Ayala left alone. During that time, Ayala would often drink alone. Day by day, she got drunker and drunker. One night, after drinking herself into oblivion, she encountered Kalin. In her stupor, she mistook him for me. Later, she found out she was pregnant. She went to Kalin and asked him what to do. She said that although what happened that night was a mistake, he also had responsibility. Kalin sneered and asked her, didn't you say you only wanted to be with Darian? What are you pretending to be so pure for? Ayala, you've been with so many people over the years, but none of them ever caught your eye. You got drunk and mistook me for him. Do you know that you were calling out his name that night? Do you want me to send those recordings to him? Ayala's face turned pale. Enough. In the end, she kept the child. Do you want to know what happened to that child in the end? Kalin asked, leaning back in his chair. And why the child in her belly now is mine again. I honestly wasn't interested. I glanced at my watch, pretending there was a meeting I had to attend. Back then, even pagers weren't commonly used yet. Kalin was staring at the digital watch on my wrist with blatant jealousy. I smiled. Sorry, I have to leave now. He wasn't willing to give up. Later, he had someone deliver a letter to me detailing everything. Letter from Kalin. Darian, I still want to clear things up with you. At first, Ayala agreed to let me take responsibility, but she quickly asked me to go to the hospital for an abortion. You're a man, so maybe you don't understand. But in our circle, if something like that gets out, it means a lot. I'm often gossiped about behind my back, and if the abortion actually happens, I can't even imagine how people would twist the story. I begged her not to go, but just like you, she disappeared without a word. She went south to find her father. Her father had abandoned her mother and started a new family, and he became the leader of a research institute in the South. She went to beg him to transfer her to work there, but her father completely denied her, and she still didn't care about the shame and went anyway. What's even more laughable, you didn't even go to the 762 Institute. She lost face for nothing, and it's all her own fault. After she had the abortion herself, I went to find her and demand an explanation. Without saying a word, she pinned me down on the bed in the guest house. Darian, this is what happened. Does it disgust you? If it does, then don't bother her anymore. You're on the rise now. It's better for you not to get involved. Otherwise, I can do anything. The handwriting was sloppy, filled with mistakes. It was clear he had written it in a rush. Some parts even contradicted each other. I guessed he must have written it secretly in the office. I looked at the final sincerely and couldn't help but laugh. I turned to Ella, who was sitting across from me, her face filled with unease. Things not going too well with Kalin? No wonder. Two young people who had just graduated, one had a bad reputation and had finally gotten someone pregnant. The other had always been aloof, now pregnant before marriage. In such a conservative era, they must have faced so many rumors. They were transferred one after another, probably because they really couldn't stay in their original units anymore. Kalin, however, clung to Ella, likely because he was eyeing the connections she had. He wanted a higher position, more important projects, but the people who could help Kalin achieve this weren't just Ella, were they? His girlfriends, his godmother, didn't they all have connections? He shouldn't have been without help. Ayala interrupted my thoughts. We really couldn't stay there anymore. Kalin refused to let me get an abortion, and he went around shouting that the child was his. At that time, I let him spread the word about our relationship, and when I denied it, no one believed me anymore, so I transferred away. I just didn't expect to run into you here. She asked if I knew what price she had paid to get transferred to Beijing. Seeing my lack of interest, she gave a self-deprecating smile. And at that time, I really hated it. I just wanted to vent. That's when Kalin came to find me. I've never regretted anything more than that impulsive day, but now I'm pregnant, and the child is his. He threatened me not to get rid of it, and I didn't dare take that risk. I can only continue to bear this mistake. In just a few days, I had heard enough of their entanglement. I said, I guess this is fate. So why are you looking for me now, Ella? She was silent for a while, her eyes suddenly growing complex. Do you believe I've been reborn? My hand suddenly stopped on the experiment logbook, and the pen tip spread into a smudge of ink. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Ayala spoke. You should believe me, Darian. Maybe you've been reborn too. Otherwise, how do you explain your sudden 180-degree turn in attitude toward me? 50 years. Did that exhaust all your patience for one person? After being reborn, you just want to live a different life? She thought the reason I didn't want to repeat the mistakes of my past was because I had gotten what I wanted and no longer valued it. I said, maybe it's because I've experienced it and realized it wasn't worth it. Or maybe over the course of these 50 years, I've regretted not choosing my own life more than once. The regret accumulated over time finally brought me the chance to choose again. Ella suddenly looked up, her body trembling slightly. So that's how it is. Then have you ever thought about why I might also be reborn? Maybe I've been regretting it all along, regretting not realizing sooner that you are the person I should have cherished the most. To be honest, hearing her say that did stir something inside me. But so what? What I cared about now was no longer how to make Ella love me. Besides, her timing for the so-called rebirth didn't make sense at all. At the moment she woke up, I should have already been long gone from her life. She insisted on attributing her rebirth to me, but it made no sense. I thought that Ella and I could really go our separate ways from then on, with no more entanglements. But to my surprise, by the turn of the millennium, I was already a key figure in the research institute, and Ella and Kalin's child was already 4 years old. He got entangled once more because of something that happened after a technical exchange meeting. Kalin went berserk and smashed some equipment, getting escorted away by security. He claimed to know me and insisted on confronting me face to face. The security guards didn't dare to act on their own, so they had him wait in the meeting room until I finished my meeting. After the meeting ended, I didn't go to see him. I went straight to find Ella and asked her to take care of him. In the meeting room, this was an important technical exchange conference. Ella had just passed the assessment and joined the institute as a researcher. She was sitting quietly in the audience, taking notes. She didn't expect me to notice her, and when she saw me, she looked a bit awkward. Long time no see, Darian. I nodded. Your attire today is not quite appropriate. Were you not prepared? She paused for a moment and then awkwardly adjusted her collar. I was rushed and didn't have time to prepare. I said indifferently, Kalin's causing a scene in the meeting room, saying he wants to confront me, but I don't want to see him. Can you go take care of it? Ayala stood still. I'm telling the truth. Kalin and I have already separated. We have no contact except for the child. I nodded. Emamichem. Then can you go get him? Ayala muttered under her breath. Unbelievable. Then she turned to me and said, as expected, this is who you are. In the past life, you thought you loved me, so you spent your whole life by my side. This life, you think it's not worth it, so you don't even want to maintain any connection. You probably don't know, but this resolute side of you makes me even more attracted to you. I'll handle Kalin. But next, it's the battle between you and me, Darian. I'm going to seriously pursue you. I'm going to pursue you properly. I helplessly closed my eyes. The only words that kept bouncing in my mind. This is insane. Ayala truly followed through with her words. Kalin no longer had the right to stay at the research institute. For all these years, he had been sneaking in and out with temporary IDs. Ayala reported him. The security office no longer issued him a pass. That was ruthless, but it was typical of Ayala. She had never acknowledged her relationship with Kalin. She made excuses, saying she was still on probation. She didn't want to repeat the same mistakes from before. Kalin was scared too. A man with a child, he didn't dare speak publicly about their affair, so the child stayed with him outside. Unable to enter the research institute anymore, Kalin had no other option. All he could do was call me every day, cursing me out, saying I ruined his life. It's all your fault. You ruined me. Why did you have to appear in my life? If I hadn't seen you with such a bright future, I wouldn't have been dissatisfied with my situation, thinking about how to change things, thinking about how to climb the ladder. I wouldn't have severed ties with all those people who could help me. If I hadn't cut those ties, I'd still be young and could use those old connections to get plenty of benefits, and life would still be easy. But now I'm stuck with this burden. In the past few years, Ayala hasn't cared about me at all. I can't even find a way out. I've become a waste. Who would help me now? It's all your fault. It's your fault you made me see that people can live a different life. Darian, you better never come back. If you dare come back, I'll do everything I can to drag you down with me. Kalin had grown up with his elderly grandmother. His parents had endured a lot of hardship in their early years, but eventually couldn't stand the poverty and abandoned him. Poverty had followed him his entire life. He was the one who truly tasted hardship, and he was the one who went astray. Before entering university, he was already out there messing around, looking for a way out. The child he forced Ayala to take responsibility for wasn't even his first. He had insisted on Ayala keeping the child because he was afraid he'd never get another chance. Back when I was tormented by rumors, I had considered revealing all this as revenge, but then I thought if I did that, I'd be no different from him. In the end, the truth came to light, and everything was clear. But now, with the situation as it was, if Kalin wasn't going to make peace, neither was I. What era is this? News travels fast. It's too easy to ruin someone's life. I stared at him and said, You think no one knows about your connections outside? The reason you couldn't leave before was because of that, wasn't it? Kalin instantly understood what I meant and gritted his teeth. Fine. If you don't come back, I won't cause you trouble. But don't you dare spill my secrets. He shook hands on it. To my surprise, not long after, Kalin got into trouble. He went to a female leader's house, and in the middle of the night, he was wandering around in nothing but his underwear when the leader's husband returned home unexpectedly. There was a fight, and Kalin was kicked out of the house. The female leader chased after him, trying to stop him, but during their struggle, her head struck the cement platform in the yard, and she died on the spot. When Kalin was arrested, he was still yelling, Why aren't you protecting me this time? You deserve this. You were the one who invited me here. As soon as your husband shows up, you turn your back on me. What kind of person are you? In the end, Kalin went mad and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. It wasn't long before he jumped off the roof of the hospital ward, and just like that, it ended. When the news of Kalin's death reached me, Ayala was waiting for me outside the cafeteria, hoping to have lunch together. As I walked out, she had just put down her pager. I asked, Aren't you going to check on it? Ayala tried to take the materials from my hand, but I pulled them away. She awkwardly smiled and said, I've had nothing to do with him for a long time. Why would I go back? Then what about your daughter? You're not going to check on her either. She's never called me mom. That's because you never acknowledged her, Allah. I really don't understand. People like us, ordinary folks, why do we always care so much about false reputations? For the sake of face, you can even abandon your own flesh and blood. She struggled to maintain composure. But how do I explain suddenly having someone else's daughter? I didn't really want to get involved, but growing up alone is tough. Even if it's Ayala's daughter, to me, she was still a stranger. I couldn't help but say, Ayala, why do you always feel the need to explain yourself? There aren't that many spectators in life. No one's watching your every move, and no one needs to know the details of everything you do. Why do you care so much about what others think? Can't you just live for yourself? She stood at the cafeteria door, defeated. She remained silent for a long time. But that's not what the world taught me. Everything I've been through tells me that the only way to get what you deserve in this world is to please it. What is it that you think you deserve? Your father's connections? His status? Your father abandoning you and your mother was wrong. But his current achievements are the result of his own hard work. If he had stayed with you back then, he'd still be just an ordinary researcher. Why should his current position be yours? I had said enough. She obviously wasn't listening. I stopped engaging with her and began preparing the paperwork for the transfer. No one knew why I suddenly chose this direction. I didn't find out until the end of my previous life that my parents had sacrificed themselves for the country. When I was born, they were killed during a mission, and their bodies were never recovered. So I had to continue their legacy. I wanted to make my country stronger so that no one would have to sacrifice themselves like my parents did. Everything I had done was for this. To smoothly transfer, I asked my uncle to help take care of Ella's daughter. He was supposed to help with the adoption process. Ella had to stay behind. I wrote an application, and she was left there. She had no choice. She couldn't prove her relationship with the child. With no valid reason, she couldn't get leave either. When the institution found out that I was being transferred and taking on an important project, they asked her to come back and take over my work. I didn't expect her to be arrested for espionage. She had tried a few times but couldn't get anything out of me, so she accepted a new assignment while stealing information. I caught her red-handed. I reported it immediately. When she was taken away, she insisted on seeing me before she would confess. Darian, your obsession with reincarnation wasn't really about me, was it? I said, love, whether big or small, should always be treated with sincerity. I love my parents, and I love this land. But for you, that love is long gone. Her shoulders trembled uncontrollably. I thought that if I made achievements in the future, I would gain my father's recognition and get access to his resources. But now it's all over. She suddenly shook her head. No, you're right. There's no such thing as what should have been. There's no such thing as how it should have been. Even reincarnation can happen, but if I get another chance, I'll still lose everything, leaving only regret. There should be no expectations in life. You can't rely on a second chance. Every moment should be treated as the only one. You should live well and live with integrity. I watched her being taken away, my heart filled with mixed emotions. At least in this life, I had no regrets.